have everybody here virtually. There's a few of you on here. So I thought what I would do here is kind of just start unpacking kind of the vision and goal around what is the total experience platform that we're kind of building out, evolution of our digital experience platform. So, in general, and some of you may have seen this before, but the general idea is to provide basically a platform that allows brands to kind of utilize the power of intent and personalization to create memorable experiences that build trust and strengthen relationship. Ultimately, providing the power to kind of integrate your content, your assets, your components in a trusted and secure, targeted way. So, as part of the HCL kind of broader portfolio, digital experience, is leveraging the XDO blueprint. XDO is our broader HCL software footprint that includes data, operations, process orchestration, and experience. And with that said, ultimately, the total experience and digital experience that you all are familiar with falls obviously within the experience there. Looking at the broader kind of capability set of HCL software, part of the uh, core kind of premise around the total experience is to be able to pre-integrate and kind of bring all of the data and the operations areas into the experience mix as well. So if you're interested in any of that broader kind of HCL capability, we'll be available to discuss that as well. But in general, we're here to talk about the evolution of our digital experience platform. And for that, our strategy with digital experience has been to basically be a central repository that ultimately layers in AI, UXs that are compositional in nature, that's led by design and grows with you to deliver that fully integrated, authenticated experience or anonymous experience for that matter, but that serves as the foundation for the broader total experience strategy, which looks a little bit more complex. The total experience strategy is about kind of the sum of all of the individual experiences and impressions that any company will leave with their customers, including online, offline interactions. TX recognizes that these are all interconnected and impact the overall kind of satisfaction, loyalty, just engagement with that customer. So if, for instance, your outcome that's expected is to elevate that customer satisfaction, build stronger brand loyalty, and improve those business processes and how they're interacted with by the customer, the DXP serves as a foundation for that. It's a foundation for the total experience strategy. It enables businesses to orchestrate and optimize all their customer interactions across every touch point, both online and offline, and creates a cohesive, seamless brand experience that fosters customer loyalty and drives business growth. For example, I mean, I guess in a retail example, you might use your DXP to connect both your online store, your mobile app, kiosks, digital signage, and customer service interactions. The whole idea being that you want to provide a consistent, personalized experience across all of these channels. And total experience is meant to address that. So one of the things we've noted over the years, with a long history in this area, right, is the fact that fragmented platforms are basically going to generate fragmented experiences, generally speaking. It's not always the case, but I mean, you do have underlying issues. You've got friction trying to integrate those things. You've got loads of channels that need to be generated and managed separately. It's just inconsistent in terms of how those things are managed. And the idea that we're betting on is that these experiences would benefit a lot from a holistic approach. And the idea being kind of let's meet the customer in context with whatever that channel is. So to do that, We've basically kind of expanded on DX and tried to provide a more total experience that's pre-integrated, resolves the issues of security and common componentry and user experience, reusability and governance by combining the tools, adding some connectors, with and providing kind of a layer of AI, customer data, and cohesive APIs that help to tie it all together. So in general, um, the strategy is around making kind of that composable plug and play deployment and integration possible, layering in a next gen user experience, user interfaces that are easy to use and ultimately take away some of the required knowledge and barrier to entry for our practitioners that are building these experiences, and then also layer in some intelligence. In this case, intelligence being AI agents and AI capabilities that will persist throughout all of that user experience. So, what's it made out of? Basically, here's what we're looking at as far as the total experience platform, right? The idea being um, that it's going to reduce cost and complexity. You're going to go faster with any of the digital projects that are necessary, and it's more content centric and engaging, and it will allow you to kind of save time and move faster. This platform is composable in nature. Ultimately, you can layer in not only the digital experience that but also low code, no code development tools, integration services. There's a persistence of AI across the platform, and plenty of orchestration, API mediation services available. It's aimed at practitioners and professional developers to go faster as a team. It supports digital surface, digital signage, even CarPlay, connects customer journeys throughout. Uh, it engages, employees, ultimately leveraged in a good number of intranets and third-party integrated scenarios, customer experience included, increases intelligence, blending content, processes, and apps, and ultimately, provides a multimodal approach. We provide anything from, design system integration, IDEs, AI, SDKs, and even your choice of front end, including, modern JavaScript related front ends like React and Next.js.
Mike, I'm looking at the AI bar there, and it
Sure.
says HCL Uno and HCL Aeon. I've never heard of those. I mean, just if I'm looking
Yeah,
at,
these are some agentic tools that we also provide at HCL. They are possible to go in and create, almost in a kind of vibe coding way, any additional kind of applications or even front ends that are necessary. So ultimately, kind of agent orchestration is what those tools are meant to provide, and they will definitely help out with building out some of these more complex experiences, or even non-web experiences, if you will. Kind of, you might imagine a chat bot, or a front end being Chat GPT or Grok. Ultimately, those tools can sit in the middle and take your content, your brand, and pass them over, so that those agents on the other side can maintain your brand and governance.
thanks.
All right. So from a technical vision perspective, this is a little bit different than how it has been historically, but we're very API first with this total experience. The general idea being to create your functionality via API, and then follow with the rest of the kind of UI necessity. This actually fully enables things like headless deployments, or like I said, some of these front end of your choice requirements that we're seeing more often. Um, uh, as I said, AI is everywhere in the product we're building here. Ultimately, there's a general concept that, you know, we want to wrap the whole of the capability set with AI assistance, practitioner assistance, developer assistance, so that things can be done faster, can be governed better, and ultimately, just aid in reducing anything from your mundane tasks to your I guess knowledge requirement for building applications and front ends. We're aiming to provide a consistent UI, not only across all of the experience, the digital experience that you're familiar with, but the broader suite of tools that's being added. And then platform ease, the idea being leverage cloud and cloud deployment capabilities to simplify all of the deployment, add in extensions, do upgrades, and all of the kind of life cycle of management that goes on within the digital experience or total experience. So what we've what we started with, right? We've been on this transformation for a bit now. The first phase is let's make a lightweight DX, container, make it cloud deployable. It's based on Open Liberty, and generally make it faster, lighter, and more scalable. We managed to do that and put it out. It was, you may have been familiar with the term web engine if you're familiar with the platform. That ultimately is the new Open Liberty version of that container. So this was, step one. It was focused on lightweight, web front ends, that need theming, content management, asset management, search, and ultimately single sign-on and things of that nature. So again, phase one for those lightweight workloads. So we stepped into then phase two to add in additional Kubernetes capabilities and Kubernetes pod deployed capabilities on top of that. The digital asset manager, a new search, open search based capability, HA proxy. Ultimately, it's a fully containerized architecture with Helm deployment and Helm configuration, and allows for those new services to be delivered much faster and configured and scaled at will. So then phase three, right? Ultimately, we needed to upgrade and make more capable our search capabilities. Ultimately, fully integrating all of the ACLs, allowing for a much better API to get access to all of your content and so on through these searches, and then also further power the AI integrations that we're now building. So ultimately, this is the phase we're in right now. Our Search V2 is delivered and is continued to be iterated on. And ultimately, this is going to not only replace the existing remote search that's in our previous deployments, but it's going to replace or it's going to add additional functionality, as I mentioned, to the AI and search engine optimization, agent optimization for that matter, so that we can kind of move forward in the way that we want to here.
And just as an advertisement, next week is the next session, which will be on the new Search V2, right?
Great.
And it does also add searches in other parts of the product, right? In the new user interface for the Practitioner Studio,
Yes.
and in the Web Content Manager, that's using the new search technology. So it's being used everywhere. It's making a big change. Anyway, I'll let you go, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see actually some screenshots of that here in a moment. Um, So, but in general, relative to TX, the value prop we're trying to get at here is we're trying to make it, so that you can launch, your initiatives faster, get your projects done quicker, do your upgrades and so on. Take a lot of the busy work out of it. open up new markets, do new workloads, build new applications. We want to accelerate collaboration and provide, kind of behavioral insights and tooling to make sure that your users are well understood and getting the targeted personalized experience they're looking for. So now we'll kind of step into the roadmap a little bit. And this is where, I don't have dates necessarily listed here. Some things may change. Obviously, in this, this new reality with all of this AI capability, things are changing at a breakneck speed. So a lot of this will be, overcome by events or elaborated on very quickly. But in general, we've got three, roadmap priorities we're working against right now. That's the agentic AI capabilities, the TX cloud deployment and evolution, and then enhancing and modernizing, really rethinking kind of the user experience for practitioners and developers, designers too, for that matter. So first, we'll talk about the AI. In general, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to add in services that are assisting our practitioners. Ultimately, taking away some of the busy work and making it easier to work with and generate and assemble the experience when and where and how it needs to be assembled. The idea being, take away the complex tasks, enable the kind of total experience ecosystem to interact with the core DX functionality, embed those AI services basically everywhere so that you always have a digital agent to ask. So where we started, and of course available today, we've got, I would consider this kind of author tools that are built in, leveraging some of these AI capabilities that will allow for, as you're generating your content or editing your content, to make sure that some of the kind of required elements are done, generating things like description and summarization, making sure that you're tagging, keyword generation for your content and assets, and then understanding the sentiment of, the content that you're also generating. All of this is in the tool today. As we move forward, we're adding in a new feature, hcl-IQ. IQ is going to be effectively the label for all of our AI capabilities. They'll manifest in a lot of different ways, but the idea being, unify all of those capabilities across that total experience platform. And what that looks like is, well, here's an example of it. For content authors, we'll have experience assistance. This will manifest in, well, two real ways. The first being a practitioner chatbot available for help and, suggestions and how-tos and even launching tasks. This is quite effective and ultimately can help, as you're building out the experience, making sure that you have the information necessary, the knowledge necessary to do whatever the task is you're doing next. But ultimately, the second way, not depicted here yet, will be a guided activity wizard, which is dynamic in nature, and will leverage what you see on the right there, the platform, the dynamic MCP services, to do complex tasks. And when I say that, I mean things like I would like to create a new site or a new page that is consisting of a number of components and so on. Effectively vibe authoring, if for lack of a better description. Ultimately, those things are very close to launch. We're looking at early next year, very early next year, for those things. But then we also have a vibe coding tool for development purposes that ultimately can help you generate applications. These can be, micro front ends. These can be, front ends for your total experience. These can be just, small apps, components on a page. Ultimately, these tools are all being kind of leveraged in tandem together in combination with those MCP services, which effectively work to instruct the AI agents how to do things, and ultimately provide the assistance necessary to generate your experiences. So it's um, a big piece of the future state.
One
Looking to
thing I'd
provide
like to mention, Mike, if you don't mind, is that an example of an experience assistant that we could have used yesterday when a customer asked me, does um, digital experience have multilingual? And I said, of course, here's some links and so forth. But searching in the product documentation is, it's harder to find things like that where this would be easier to find, right? So that it
exactly.
just gives you, even though it sounds like, oh, an assistant, it really changes things, all these various items. So.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, you could say, open the chat bot. Does the experience have multilingual? And it will say not only yes, but also here's how you set it up. And ultimately, that does work today and is rather detailed. So, it's definitely going to speed things along. So here's just an example of that AI development capability, that vibe coding tool. Ultimately, this is early stage what it looks like, but ultimately can by prompt generate applications, script apps, portlets, even front ends, and ultimately is going to be delivered very early on next year as well, just as a further example there. So as I mentioned a few times, the idea is to kind of wrap the experience with AI wherever it's necessary. It's let's provide not only app building, environment understanding and analytics, but also insight into content and what's going on with your information architecture or whatever content's in use and so on. Um, we're providing it not only for practitioners and developers, but operations support, um, for composition of all of the experiences on the UI, and even opening it for an ecosystem of connectors so that third-party AI capabilities can be added in as needed. Okay, as far as TX Cloud, generally speaking, we're trying to enable basically deployment of choice, right? Ultimately, as a service offering that can not only use simplified user licensing, but deploy wherever you want it to deploy. The idea, of course, being scalability, time to market. We're trying to make it easier to get the outcomes you guys require. And ultimately, to do that, I mean, cloud is definitely offering a lot to make that happen. Um, and in terms of deployment options, here's what's available as it stands today. We have your Kubernetes of choice cloud service, right? You can ultimately deploy it on your premise, on any other Kubernetes provider in the cloud, even in some of the marketplaces, AWS and Azure, for example. But in the first half of next year, we will also have a new cloud offering, which is more of an as a service type offering for total experience. And that um, will ultimately be hosted by HCL, and provide all of the same capabilities, and you'll be able to assemble your experience there, or your experience platform there, and leveraging all of the kind of managed services that you would expect in a HCL hosted cloud.
And Mike, on that, I have a question on the hcl-tx cloud.
Sure.
Is that more than DX? Does that include Leap and other parts?
Yes. Yeah, it will be the total experience platform, including what you might know today as Leap, multi-experience, so Volt MX, and customer data platform, and all of the marketing and commerce solutions as well.
Thanks.
So what is TX Cloud? So just a little bit more on that, right? The idea being, of course, like I said, lower cost, more agile, making it so they can deploy much faster, taking some of the administrative overhead off of the table of the customer, making it so they can focus on development and content management. It's going to come pre-integrated with DX, with Foundry, with Leap, all ready to go. And it's going to have SaaS-like qualities and updates as they come out. So ultimately, a lot of things that don't need configured, that don't need integrated, that just simply work whenever the environment's turned on. And ultimately, hopefully taking some of that, like I said, administrative overhead off the table. For practitioners, so I mentioned kind of the user experience being overhauled or rethought. And then Dan, you had mentioned earlier about, where does that search manifest, for instance. This is where we're going. Ultimately, a lot of this is delivered, most of this is delivered as it stands today. And you'll see these rolling out with that new cloud deployment as well. Right. So the new practitioner UX vision is to provide that ubiquitous search. Always know what environment you're at, where you're at as far as your development, test, multi-tiered environment staging. We've redesigned our navigation, making it easier to find and do tasks that are necessary. We've basically looked to make sure that all of the things that are necessary to do your job, whether you're a developer, you're an admin, are going to be represented in the UI somewhere. And then added, as you mentioned, Dan, the in context help, or HCL-IQ, you see the agent there, or the chatbot there. Those things are all ultimately going to manifest in every one of the kind of practitioner UI areas. But what's more is we've also gone a little bit deeper, looking at well, like you see there, the navigation, of course, but the authoring tooling. We're going to make that more customizable, modernize it, restyle those interfaces, making it not only more appealing, but easier to get around in, remove some of the kind of knowledge requirement necessary in working in the authoring tools. So all of this is on the table, and more. But just as a general statement, this is the vision, this is the trend, this is how it's going to manifest. So additionally, so looking at kind of the practitioner experience of assembly, right? We have a new site coming out, a new sample site coming out, that's going to actually it'll do a lot better in terms of, this is the best practice for how you use this platform, than what we've done in the past, and ultimately provide you with a great design to start with, a design system, and all of the components, all of the areas necessary to customize and generate your own sites using the same kind of methodology. And ultimately, the tool is meant to enable the collaboration between all of the roles necessary, the managers, the authors, the developers, so that they can come together, work as a collaborative team, and deliver the experience. One of the biggest things that's going to enable that is um, this new capability that we're launching, called Blueprint. Some of you may have heard of this. Some of you may be net new. But the general idea is, let's empower everybody, starting with the designers. Ultimately, designers working in Figma or whichever design tool, are building components. Those need to translate into the actual, web components that ultimately manifest in a website, or social, or wherever they're manifesting. So we're starting with designers and saying, okay, we need to be able to interact, with that role much better. Ultimately, the Blueprint design system is how we're going to handle that, right? Which basically is a design system and component library, fully documented and tested, which is deployed alongside the DX theme, alongside the content libraries and components necessary to actually use those design system components on the website. Drag and drop, assembly, just like you would expect with traditional DX deployment, and ultimately allowing for you to kind of create your experience as you go. The blueprint design system takes basically a content first approach, but it leverages defaults that make sense relative to DX, allows for personalization, allows for white labeling and customization, and provides comprehensive user model. And then what's not mentioned, and you'll see here, is well documented. The documentation site itself ultimately has everything from, code markup, snippets, to, usage guidelines and so on, and ultimately will enable you to get off the starting block and build these experiences much faster and much more controlled, kind of governed way. So ultimately, Blueprint is one big piece of the broader kind of practitioner puzzle that will allow for those sites, those components, whatever the front end ultimately will be, on like from design on through to assembly, to delivery. One thing that will go along with the blueprint components very well, and as well as the AI components for some of the kind of vibe coding and or page generation or component generation or content generation, is going to be our presentation designer tool. This is probably new for most of you as well, but presentation designer is a WYSIWYG tool that ultimately allows for drag and drop and kind of WYSIWYG tooling to generate presentation templates, component presentations, things of that nature, so that you can know, as an author now, what is your content going to look like whenever it's presented, right? This actually removes the requirement for developers to be involved in generating HTML for the presentation of your content, and ultimately allows for anybody with basic kind of business user skills, I guess, authoring skills, to be able to generate these presentations as well. But what's more is it not only allows you to create the presentations, you've got preview inline, similar to how you do with Pages and Site Manager. You've got inline editing for the content that's attached to that. And then you also have the style editor so that you can tweak or pull in your own CSS. Then as a future statement, you'll also end up having components that are pre-built that you can essentially drag and drop onto the page, that maybe your developers can stage into the environment, so that you can move much faster and deploy these things with greater velocity. So for developers, the idea is, to enable kind of fully develop or fully headless development, but also exposing all of the capability of our AI agents, and create some better APIs and SDKs for for whatever front end of your choice. So to do that, basically, we're working on a couple of areas, right? We're enhancing our documentation, up to and including the obviously the existing APIs, but we're also adding some additional APIs and scaffolding tooling, so that you can ultimately generate the scaffolding of an application and just get off to the races building that very quickly. But then we're also adding our MCP servers, which and an AI gateway that will allow for again, the vibe coding tooling as well. So in those three areas, there's a lot of work, but ultimately, that's going to power our kind of future state of development in the platform. So the priorities, um, yeah, basically, I mean, the goal kind of speaks for itself. We want to power development of whatever the front end is, micro front ends. We want developers to be able to use the skills they already have, and we want, frankly, practitioners to be able to use, prompting skills and vibe coding skills to be able to generate things as well. So, ultimately, we're adding navigation page layouts APIs that will allow for you to generate your front end in whatever way you want. We're improving our existing APIs and adding some additional query capabilities in those API calls so that you can get back only the response that you want rather than a very verbose response you have to parse through. We've got some additional samples coming out that are going to be available and deployed within that blueprint sample site that I mentioned earlier. Additional capabilities around building Wickham components as code. And then the scaffolding that I mentioned, for instance, if you wanted to generate a script app, a React script app, for instance, you could, just open up your IDE of choice and simply type, generate script app, and there it would go. Then you can go about, customizing that application and deploy it directly to DX. It's already aware of your environment and your security and your personalization so that it can now just deploy. And then we are going to make some additions and improvements in the REST APIs for personalization, and we're adding an SDK as well. So those are kind of where we're going in the developer area. Um, so one of the things we're trying to enable, as I mentioned, is whatever the micro front end of choice is, right? We're trying to break down that user interface, make it available via API, and I mentioned the navigation and layout models or APIs that are going to be added for that. We're also, adding, some script application enhancements into the mix, modernizing the script application so that it can work much more cohesively with these modern front end frameworks, and also providing some additional samples and I mentioned the application scaffolding. So one of the other things that's available now is a new developer community where you can kind of go to start to learn about these things as they're coming out, ask questions, and kind of just be engaged on the development of the platform. So ultimately, this is available today, and will provide additional value for any developers, that are looking for whatever the information is they need, that are, trying to collaborate with each other. All of these things, obviously, um, I would suggest that this would be the kind of launch point for any question you might have around the developer experience. So one of the things that I think, as I kind of wrap up here, I want to call some attention to is, we're looking for, and obviously we're building a lot of features, but what we're looking for is sponsor customers, right? Ultimately, the way that we've chosen since starting here at HCL, the way we've chosen to build our new features is directly from customer interaction. We're taking requirements from our customers and turning them into product. And to do that, we need, customers that want to tell us what their requirements are and would like to participate in that process. What we end up doing in those sponsor customer calls is bringing you along the process as we're developing these features. and ultimately taking your requirements as we go, your feedback as we go, and going from the early prototyping phase on through to production, bringing you along that journey with us. So in the end, this is kind of a bit of a call out. If anybody's interested in participating in this way, we would like to know, and we will reach out to you and work with you on whatever your requirements might be. So I guess with that, we're kind of at the end.